Coming up this week on Sporting Journal Radio, Angler of the Year, Hunter Nitti joining us on the show.
I've never really seen walleyes move that fast. There's definitely a lot of negative aspects to the competition.
I thought you were going to skip right past the big story, the chance to go squirrel hunting while we're down there.
So many different kinds of structure.
Broadcasting on the Sporting Journal Radio Network, wherever you get your podcasts, or watch on YouTube.
Fish on right now.
Well, we're here at the 2024 Pheasant Fest and Quail Classic, presented by OnX. Know where you stand with OnX. And our guest now is Jeremy Smith. I fish, I hunt, and always will.
It's just to look out for your everyday hunter, angler, and trapper that's out there.
A Fish Hunt Forever production. This is Sporting Journal Radio. That's right. Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Bret Amundsen, along with Dan Amundsen over there. What's up, Dan?
Hey, we have a special guest on the show this week.
Oh, who is it? I can't wait.
It is,
ladies and gentlemen, David Eckhart.
Holy, we just broke people's radios.
Welcome back, David. Where have you been?
Working, hunting. I don't know what I've been doing.
I need to start paying him more, I guess, or something. I don't know. Well, welcome back, David. We're glad you're here.
Good to be back.
We're glad you're here. We got a big show for you, ladies and gentlemen. Hunter Nitti, Angler of the Year, the NWT, is going to join us to talk about how his season went, when he thought he might have a crack at the AOY, and then what he'd like to see changed potentially with the NWT in the future. What changes he might see, what he'd like to see, things like that, and what negative things have happened being a part of tournament fishing since he started tournament fishing when he was 10.
That's crazy.
That's pretty wild. So, also Joe Henry will join us. He'll have a fishing report from Lake of the Woods and talk about how the Shiner Run is doing right now. And we're going to talk about the bear harvest. Man, there's been a lot of bears shot in Minnesota this year. Dan.
Yeah.
Who are this week's sponsors?
They are, that's a weird lead-in, Inver Grove Toyota. The official truck sponsor of Fish Hunt Forever is Inver Grove Toyota. When looking for your new truck, head to Inver Grove Toyota. Lake of the Woods Tourism. Lake of the Woods is the walleye capital of the world. Plan a trip for this open water season or ice fishing season at lakeofthewoodsmn.com. OnX Hunt. See private land boundaries, recent imagery, offline maps, and Minnesota-specific hunt layers. Download the OnX Hunt app today. Tasman Lake Lodge. Catch world record lake trout and giant pike at Saskatchewan's Tasman Lake. Learn more at TasmanLake.com. Devil's Lake, North Dakota. Catch it all at Devil's Lake. Maybe do a cast and blast. Prairie Sportsman, the new season is wrapped up, but we're filming new episodes right now. You can watch episodes anytime at the Prairie Sportsman YouTube channel. Haybell Heights Campground and Resort. Fish Devil's Lake this summer and fall. Learn more at haybellheights.com. Guardian Eagle Resort. Come fish the Ontario waters of Guardian Eagle Resort. Fly directly from the Twin Cities. Learn more at guardianeagle.com.
Take a breath.
No.
Hey, David, will you just grab one of those shirts and hold it up for the camera real quick? The red ones right there.
Hi, David.
If you can make it over there. So we have a watch and win contest. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, just stop watching for 1 second. Go to sportingjournalradio.com, click on the watch and win contest, and then put in your email address, and then watch. Then there's a link to watch this video again. Yeah, we got to focus that a little bit. And you could win this Make Duck Season Late Again T-shirt paid for by Minnesota Hunters for an October opener. See that available right now at sportingjournalradio.com. They're only $20 too if you want to buy one. If you want to see a later duck season, turn it around and see the back.
What?
What's the back look like? Fish hunt forever. I hunt and always will. There you go. So you can you can participate in the watch and win contest right now at sportingjournalradio.com.
Brand new car.
One for you. One for you.
Headlines.
I've had a number of people on my Snapchat sending me pictures and videos of bear success stories this year so far in Minnesota, and by all accounts, it's been a monster bear season so far this year.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people posting that there's tons of bears getting shot.
It sounds like it's been a lack of food up there, natural production. I talked to my buddy Jake Flaw, who lives up there, and he said he thought maybe there was a late frost that killed a bunch of the like the berries that these bears would eat. So lack of food for the bears has brought a lot into the bear sites, the bear bedding sites, and according to Outdoor News, the first few days of the bear season netted more kills than they did the entirety of last season, setting the tone for a harvest that might be on pace with the 2020 season, which yielded around 3,200 bears. You know, it's weird. I guess a frost will do that, but it just seems like we've got so much vegetation here in the, kind of the west central part of the state. Like, it seems it's hard for me to believe that there isn't food for them to eat up there.
The plant might be there, but the berries,
No berries.
may have suffered.
Yeah.
There's plenty of fawns for them to eat.
That's right. Yeah. There's a CEO, Thomas Sutherland. I did not write down where he was from. I have a feeling he's
That sounds like Grand Rapids. I think he checked me on while I was fishing Grand Rapids once, actually.
that was it. Go ahead. There you go.
Serious.
He said this season's bear population is the highest he has seen in some time. So, is it a lack of food for the bears? Is it a high bear population? Is it a combination of both? Potentially. I know sometimes people have said in the past that Minnesota doesn't give out enough bear tags, or it's hard to get a bear tag in some of the quota zones. So, they are definitely eating a lot of fawns. They're eating a lot of deer up there. So, I don't know. They're killing a lot of bears. So I couldn't believe all the bears that I saw on Snapchat. So if you've been bear hunting, we'd love to see pictures of your bear. If you got a big, good bear this year, put the picture below if you can.
Can you even? I don't know if you can put pictures in YouTube comments.
Yeah, maybe not.
Don't do that then. Just tell us you shot one. Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, tell us what you're seeing if you're up there bear hunting. If you're seeing a lot of bears or if you're guiding, we'd love to hear how the bear season has gone for you up there. And if you want a new truck without spending $60,000 to $80,000 in America's economy right now, well, take a look at the Toyota Tacoma. Starting at just $36,195, Tacoma is the number one selling midsize truck in America, selling more than Chevy Colorado and Ford Ranger combined. They can now tow up to 6,500 pounds for the 2024 model year. They've got a redesigned Tacoma out there. And for you, our Sporting Journal Radio and Fish Hunt Forever listeners, get $250 off the lowest advertised price and an additional $500 off for your trade-in. That's a great deal just for you. Visit invergrovetoyota.com/FHF. So invergrovetoyota.com/FHF. Claim your trade voucher today or stop into Invergrove Toyota, 494 in Robert Street in Invergrove Heights, Minnesota. So,
David, how's your Tacoma?
It's great.
Good.
I love it. Yeah, took it on
right.
a hunting trip and didn't skip a beat.
that's you got a used one, but that thing is it didn't look like it had been very used, I guess.
Yeah, I think it came from Pennsylvania or somewhere out east, but yeah, 100,000 miles on it. And
Oh, does it really? Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
yeah, it's a pretty clean truck.
So you got like 300,000 to 400,000 to go yet.
Oh yeah.
It's like Joe Henry talking about his Tundra. He's got 370,000 miles on it or something like that.
Ton of miles.
Well, we took our Toyotas over to a buddy of ours the other day, Tony Crotty with Mid-Migration Outfitters, and he was building some new duck blinds. And I don't think you were there for the beginning of it. You were probably there.
I got there right before you did. So
you were probably there for some of the. Well, we were there the day before too. I think. You were probably in it on some of the planning, I'm sure. But those blinds came out. Did they come out nicer than you expected them to? Because
I don't know, nicer than I expected. I didn't know what to expect, but yeah, they turned out awesome.
Yeah, well, there you go. So that's better than you expected.
They're going to
be
super nice to duck hunt out of.
Right.
Comfortable. You can have all your stuff dry.
So
breakfast.
As somebody that's probably, well, you've definitely built pits. I don't know, maybe you built a duck blind, you built your own deer stands and things like that. When it comes to like a duck blind, if you're going to build your own, say somebody listening or watching this right now is going, I want to build my own. What are a couple of things they need to make sure they include in there?
Gun holders for the first item, because you don't want guns tipping over or getting hit by a dog and tipping over. Yeah, just safety features that way.
So, and that's, you'll see them in A-frames. They'll have little V notches that you can put your gun in, and you just like carved out some little,
I just
half
notches
notches
to hold the barrel
in the wood. But do you think it's something, because that freaks me out, especially if you got a dog running through a blind like that. I've watched guns fall over many times. That's why normally my gun's unloaded until there's birds working,
right,
and then I'll load up quick for that very reason. But do you think there's even a case to be made where, maybe a little bungee strap or something, or a little something you can twist to kind of keep that gun in that little notch? Or do you think that's...
Or just a magnet.
Oh, there you go. I've seen magnets.
Yeah.
I've seen guys use that before.
Then you wouldn't forget about flipping a latch or something. But
yeah, I can see guys grabbing.
Oh, that would scare me almost more. Be trying to yank on a loaded gun to pull it away.
Well, yeah.
I mean, you start getting a little wild and crazy trying to shoot a duck with a firearm. You don't really want,
I've seen people get a little wild and crazy for sure. All right, what else? What's something else that they should have?
Storage, stuff somewhere to set your coffee and your box of shells on the wall, on a shelf, or, somewhere to get your blind bag out of the way. And yeah, just room to a comfy seat.
One thing I was pretty impressed with, I went out with Tony for part of the time when he put those blinds. He made built two blinds and put them up on one of his sloughs. And when I came out there and he had I don't even know what they're called, the survey equipment, the little
laser, yep.
Laser, yeah, leveler or elevation level or whatever those things do. And he leveler?
Just a laser level.
Laser level, yeah. I was like, he's got it tamping down everything and making them all level across the board. I was pretty impressed with what he was doing out there.
Yeah, that's the landscaper in him.
Right. Yeah, it's come a long ways, I think, since the early days of building panel blinds and throwing them up out there. But all right, well, I wanted to talk to you about building a deer stand, but we're running out of time for that because I don't know if it's probably not a new thing, but building deer stands on running gears, it seems like maybe just locally here with all of our buddies, all of a sudden everybody's building them here. But has that been a thing for a while?
I guess I don't know how long it's been around, but I mean, less and less people use gravity boxes nowadays, so there's probably a surplus of them on the market, and it's just an easy way to make a mobile stand. I've
seen stands on trailers, whether it's just even a pop-up blind or actually a built box blind or permanent stand. I've seen them on trailers. You can move them in and out. If you need to work on them, you can haul them home and work on them if you want. Or if you set up on one side of the field and you're like, dang it, start hunting.
Yeah, why did I put this here?
Yeah, you can move it pretty easily, but I'd never seen them on running gears that I knew of anyway. And it seems like that's kind of a trend right now.
Yeah, and I think it'll be pretty easy, if I want to change my food plot location or change, year to year, if something grows different, you can just maneuver it wherever you want it.
Well, I had a little experience with Tiny while I was helping Tony set those blinds out that I want to tell you about real quick. But first, if you want to come fish the Ontario waters of Guardian Eagle Resort, you can. Bring the family and fish for walleyes and pike on 75,000 acres of private water, and you can fly direct from Minneapolis right at the Anoka County Airport in Blaine and land right at the lodge. They got a concrete runway right at the lodge. You drop right down at the lake, and they take your bags and stuff and bring them right to your cabin, and you just go in and have some food and go out and catch as many walleyes as you want to. Learn more at guardianeagle.com. So I've been wanting to get a GPS collar for my dog for a number of years, and I had a situation with Tiny this week where we were working on duck blinds, and Tiny likes to swim, so I figured she'd go swim in the pond for the entire time we were there. So I wasn't paying real close attention. Well, she got on the scent of a pheasant or something, and all of a sudden, boom, she was gone. And I have a feeling what happened is she got into a cornfield, and then once you're into those cornfields, there's a mile-long cornfield. Like, you can go for circles, and it's thick in there, and trying to run a whistle or run a collar, if she doesn't know which direction she's going, she's running around in circles, and you can't. I mean, it's like being in a soundproof room when you're in those cornfields like that, David.
And if there's any breeze or anything, the leaves blowing in the wind, you can't hear anything 10 feet away.
Yeah. So I've never had, that's the first time Tiny's done that. I've hunted a few times around standing corn in the fall with Mika and had her get on the scent, and those pheasants in the cornfields, especially if there is kind of windy, they will run because there's good cover for them, and they can run and they can dip and dive and move in and out of the standing corn and get out of the way and outrun a lot of critters, dogs, coyotes, whatever. And one year, a couple of years back, I lost Mika for a little while in a cornfield. I had to drive around the section trying to find her, and finally I found her right where I lost her, sitting next to the corn. Like, she knew she was lost. She didn't know where to go, and she just locked up and sat down, thankfully out of the corn so I could see her. In fact, I came in the dark, shining my headlamp, and I saw her eyes reflect back at me, and that's how I found her. But so I am getting Garmin GPS collar. It's happening for sure, because if the corn harvest is going to be a little late this year, so pheasant hunters are most likely going to have standing corn around for probably a couple of weeks this year.
Yeah, for sure.
So
when do you think that'll start?
It's hard to say with this hot weather right now. Things are changing fast, but
Like changing fat, like to speed things up, or how does the hot weather affect that?
Yeah, it dries it down. Yeah. Dries the plant down, dries the corn down. So, I mean, I see cornfields, some cornfields are already mostly brown.
Turning. Already turned.
Versus the soybeans are still pretty green. So, there may be some corn coming out before beans. Who knows?
Oh, really?
Yeah, just all depends.
That happened a few years ago, too, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Well, I talked to a farmer yesterday, too. He thought around that October 5th date, he was thinking might be bean time.
Yeah,
with corn.
It's definitely later this year, so.
Well, it'll be interesting. I mean, I don't mind, especially the first couple of weeks, I don't mind a little standing crop out there for pheasant hunting because it makes it tougher, there's no doubt.
Right.
But I think so many people hunt those first couple of weekends. And not that I don't want you to go out there and shoot some pheasants. Of course I do. And you will, because there'll be plenty of dumb ones in the grass to shoot. But those sneaky ones and the lucky ones will get to hide in the beans and the standing corn. And then we'll target them later in the season, which is kind of fun. All right, if you're looking for world-class walleye fishing, look no further than Devils Lake, North Dakota, where the walleye bite remains strong all year long. Catch it all at Devils Lake. Visit devilslakend.com to learn more, to plan your trip. And real quick here, in just a little bit, you guys, we're going to talk to Joe Henry, get a Lake of the Woods fishing report, and then we're going to talk to Hunter Nitti, who's Angler of the Year for the NWT. And Dan, we've seen bass in that other tournament, do some changes to the regulations regarding forward-facing sonar. Do you think the NWT will follow suit?
Hard to say. The walleye game's a little different than the bass game. You've got a lot less, a lot smaller audience. So you've got a lot less people chirping in their ears about it. I don't know. I haven't really heard of any NWT anglers complaining about the use of live scope. You might hear them grumble about it, like, I still don't use it, blah, 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 blah. But you haven't really heard any, there's been no standout anglers saying we got to ban it like there has been on the bass side. There's no Randy Blockett's of the walleye fishing world quite yet.
Well, there's no question that they're all using it. And even Tom Wynn said when he won that tournament, he said, it's all because of my live scope. Like I can thank my live scope for this one. So I don't know. We'll see if no one's really complaining about it. I don't expect any changes about it. And we'll ask Hunter about that coming up later in the show just a little bit too. David, what do you think? I
don't know. I love my live scope, so I hope they never ban it.
All right. I mean, yeah, do you think the DNR will look at, what some of these tournament organizations are doing and say, oh gosh, if they're doing something like this, do we need to do something?
I think it would be too hard to police.
Yeah.
But they would just drop the bag limits, I think.
Right. Yeah. Well, the biggest thing is, as long as people understand what effect they're having on a resource, whether it's from using live scope or just from finding a pot of fish and catching every single one of them, or from fishing too deep because of barotrauma, which, by the way, our barotrauma episode, Dan, nominated for an Emmy Award.
That's right. Sure is.
If you haven't seen it yet, we went out with the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. We went out with Linder Media, who did the initial filming of the DNR research study the year prior. Went out and filmed for 3 days on a lake near Walker and caught crappies in probably 35 to 55 feet, I suppose, something like that. And I'll never forget Jake Wallace catching one and bringing it up, and literally the fish was dead. He brought it up out of the water, and the fish was dead. It's like 50 feet of water. But that was the point. That's what we were trying to find out. None of the fish were wasted. We got to eat a bunch of crappies right after that. They were delicious. So it was good research. And if you don't know about barotrauma, you should learn about it and look for the Prairie Sportsman episode. In fact, if you go to fishhuntforever.com, I got all our Emmy-nominated episodes because we were nominated for that. We were also nominated for the Veteran Cast and Blast event we did, where, Dan, you got to spend, we're running out of time here, but you got to spend some time with a guy that was a prisoner of war for 4 years.
Yeah, was in Vietnam for 4 years. The way he put it, to really put it in perspective, because if you just say 4 years, it doesn't sound like a ton. But think how long it took you to get through high school. Yeah. That's how long he was in Vietnam.
That's an insane way to think about it.
Yep.
That's crazy. Well, fishhuntforever.com. We got a list of all those, or prairiesportsman.org, and you can see all our Emmy-nominated episodes there. And if you want trophy lake trout, northern pike fishing in a scenic northern Saskatchewan setting, go to Tasman Lake Lodge. Go to tasmanlake.com. It's not uncommon for guests to get both personal bests in categories of pike and lake trout while they're there. They're up there right now fishing the fall trout spawn. I'm very, very jealous about it. But book your trip at tasmanlake.com, and we'll have a Lake of the Woods fishing report and Hunter Nitti and Joe Henry all on the way.
Hunting season will be here before you know it, and it's time to get ready for your next adventure with the onX Hunt app. Whether you're traveling in search of roosters, elk, waterfowl, or looking to score on a whitetail close to home, onX Hunt can help you be more successful this season. Route, plan, and navigate with private and public land boundaries, recent imagery, offline maps, and Minnesota-specific hunt layers. Download the Hunt app on the App Store or Google Play and join the millions of hunters that trust onX Hunt.
All right, this is Sporting Journal Radio. Thanks for tuning in on the network by demand or watching this wherever you watch YouTube. I got all
wherever you watch YouTube. Yeah. so YouTube,
or sure. Well, maybe you watch it while you're driving. I don't know. Don't do that, of course. But or wherever you get your favorite podcasts, which is what I was trying to say. Joe Henry joins us from Lake of the Woods Tours, and right now, Joe, what's happening?
Hello, gentlemen. How you doing?
Looks like you're driving. Please tell me you're not watching YouTube while you're driving, of course.
I'm parked. I'm actually parked.
Oh, that's
well,
that's what happens.
We had to rotate it because Hunter was on the Rainy River and couldn't figure out his orientation lock. So we had to. We were doing some rotating. So now I got to rotate Joe around. You're all turned around.
When I flip sideways on the screen, I think we can blame that on mustache. What do you think?
Yeah, well, you can. Yeah.
Let's say that's what happens when you watch YouTube and drive. But we
end up sideways.
Just
in the ditch.
I think coming up later in the show, Hunter Nitti is going to join us, and we just interviewed him up on the Rainy River. So it was fun to talk to him. Yeah. Now we get to talk about the Rainy and Lake of the Woods again. Now with you, Joe, how are things going up there?
Things are going good, and you know why Hunter's up there is the championship for the Minnesota Tournament Trail, which takes place Thursday and Friday up there. And well, you want to talk about a great fishing circuit. Of course, Bret, I have a strong history with the MTT. I fished it for many years and have nothing respect for those anglers. In fact, it's really kind of neat with that MTT because when those anglers from the MTT fish other circuits, they often do very, very well. And there's some real talent. It's going to be fun to see how the weights show up over the next couple of days up there for these men and women.
Well, I'm sure they're going to do pretty well. It is, it's Lake of the Woods. Sorry, I was reading some of this stuff on the screen right here. It looks like a pretty good weather up there for it too. Of course, now that I said that, it'll probably be
way to go.
I probably jinxed it for them, but I think I'm sure it'll be good, Joe. It's Lake of the Woods.
Yeah, it's going to be good. And what fishing's really been good too. It's really kind of fun to see. Every year there's different movements of walleyes based on Mother Nature, basically, right? I mean, the days are getting shorter. I know water temps were down to 64 before this week. Now it's been pretty warm this week, so they may pop up a little bit. But and the jig bite is picking up more than ever. There had been some charters that hadn't gone away from jigging really all summer and done a pretty nice job of it, get some good numbers of fish. I heard some reports this last week of over 120 fish per boat. Now, when I say a report, it's not that everybody's catching over 120 fish per boat, but I guess my point is that some of those fish are getting schooled up on that south shore, and anchored up and jigging amongst them is a fall technique that we always hear about. So that is happening. At the same time, some of the anglers out there are still pulling crankbaits, and some are still drifting with spinners and crawlers. So the big lake is some of those fish are starting to head toward shore a little more. There's a pile of fish that are starting to stack up on that south end. So fishing has been really good. Now, with that being said, too, the river. A lot of people that fish the river in the fall and look forward to that, they're very optimistic, and the reason they are is because it seems like, and I'm always careful because as soon as you think you know what's going on, Mother Nature proves you totally wrong, But it seems like when there's a really good fall bite, like when the fish really stack up in the Rainy River in the fall, and for listeners, the shiners, emerald shiners run up the Rainy River from Lake of the Woods in the fall, and those walleyes follow them. That's what sets up the fall walleye run. Well, when there's more water flowing in the Rainy River, like there is this fall, rather than being very low water, that seems to make it a better year. And this year we got some good flow. We already heard reports of shiners all the way up to Birchdale, which is, approximately 42 miles upriver from the mouth of the river at Wheeler's Point. And then on top of that, there's also some nice reports of some nice walleyes being caught already. And with all that being said, it's shaping up nice, knock on wood, but I think it's going to be a good fall in the river.
Well, I'm sure it will be. That's an exciting time to be up there, of course, and you can do some cast and blast stuff, maybe try to do some waterfowl hunting or some grouse hunting while people are up there. And Joe, I can't tell. I'm looking through your windows there. I can't tell if I'm looking at the sides of buildings or is it cloudy and rainy where you're at?
No, it's not cloudy and rainy. Actually, I'm in a parking ramp. I have a meeting and a seminar and such to go to this afternoon, so I'm in a parking ramp right now, and You're probably looking at some bars behind me with other concrete parking ramps, and it's actually a sunny blue sky day. You just can't see it.
So you're in the land of tall buildings.
I am, yeah. Once in a while, it's part of the gig, and it's okay. It's here for some good reasons, and it's all good.
Can we talk about where you were yet, or is that a secret? That's not a secret, is it? I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Well, we won't say where you were then. We'll just say where.
I have amnesia.
Hashtag join a glow.
Yeah, that's right.
I was doing some work with the glow on a site inspection, and I don't know if the site has officially been announced yet, so we should probably keep it hush.
Well, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, the Association of Great Lakes Outdoor Writers is putting together some really, really incredible meetings in the near future, and it's in good hands. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We got the conference here. What is it? Well, next week, I suppose we're heading down there.
10,
next weekend,
11 days
from now.
Oh yeah, well yeah, about a week from
when this airs.
If somebody's listening to this on a Sunday, we'll be in Kentucky.
Yeah, we'll be down there.
From
it's kind of cool too, because I know that they sent out a memo. So if you're going to an Glow conference, here's what you can look forward to. Right off the bat, there's an Glow fishing contest on Kentucky Lake. That's kind of cool. And then in addition to that, you sign up for other side trips. One of them is going bass fishing with a bass fishing guide on Kentucky Lake. Another one could be going crappie and panfish fishing. There's some huge crappies on Kentucky Lake. Another one that I'm taking advantage of is getting an opportunity to tour behind the scenes of Major League Fishing. And there's many others. There's a kayak excursions being led by a guide. There's a tour of the big dam that's at Kentucky Lake, and many others besides that. There's a squirrel
there you go. I thought you were going to skip right past the big story, the chance to go squirrel hunting while we're down there.
No, and that's going to be kind of a cool deal too. The rolling hills of that area of Kentucky Lake, rolling hills of hardwoods, and just going to be kind of a fun deal. Plus, you're going with industry people, and Bret, are you going to go on the squirrel hunt?
So Dan and I, we signed up. One of us signed up to go fishing, and one of us signed up for the squirrel hunt. And right now, I'm going fishing, and Dan is going to go squirrel hunting. And we may decide differently when we get there. But right now, that's the way it's set up. And I'm a little jealous about the squirrel, about Dan going squirrel hunting.
That sounds super fun.
Maybe I'll let you go. Maybe I'll go fish. I like fishing.
We'll see. Do you think a guy needs snake boots to do that down there?
Oh, I'm going fishing.
Knew that was coming. Yeah. I'm excited, Joe. I've never been down there before. I know, like the land between the lakes is a really neat area. There's a lot of wilderness there. There's a swamp tour that you can take. I guess we're going to be able to go see the cypress trees, and I think it's called like a reptilian mystery tour or something like that. I can't remember what it's called, but so it might be a chance to see some of the wildlife, the local wildlife down there, which I think is kind of neat.
Oh, I think it's going to be great. And, whenever you get outdoor media, outdoor companies, destinations, conservation groups like Ducks Unlimited, National Wild Turkey Federation, and others together, magic happens. And then, you put it in an environment where the destination gets some love. So it enables people like us to see a different area and how they do things. And that's where the fishing and the tours and different things come up. And, it's always a win-win at a Glow. I always come away from that conference feeling like there's some valuable relationships that have been made, and it typically benefits, in my case, the Lake of the Woods area.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's so much fun, and it allows you to experience another part of the world a little bit and learn about the area, and just most importantly, to be able to, if you want to work in the outdoors, it's just a great opportunity to rub elbows with the movers and shakers of the outdoor industry. And the only thing I don't like is nobody in the Glow likes each other, and we never have a good time.
Yeah. Well, that's what they call networking, and
that's right.
I get a kick out of we have that networking down there, and geez, there's every time you turn around, there's a hospitality event. Goodness gracious,
it's a good time. It's so much fun. And I'm looking forward to going down there. And we've been to Michigan and Branson and now Kentucky, and I'm looking forward to it. The only thing is, Joe, they don't really have much for walleyes down there.
No, they don't have Kentucky Lake. I don't know. I don't know that there's. I think there are some walleyes in Kentucky Lake.
There might be
now,
some.
I do know that back in the day, the PWT fished. I think it was Lake Cumberland, which I think is in Kentucky, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, there's some other bodies of water that do have walleyes down there, just that they don't get the attention. It's bass, it's crappies, and other fish. There's a large population of those like big-headed carp and stuff too. So I know one of the things we did when we were down there years past is and I don't think they have it this year, but
bowfish.
You would go bow fishing, with a bow and arrow below the dam. And boy, when they would open up a dam, like when a new chute of the dam would open up and the siren would go off to indicate new water's coming, those carp would get all freaking excited and they'd be jumping everywhere and arrows would be flying, and it was let me tell you.
That's pretty wild. And I know there's something about some big record walleye from down in that neck of the woods, I know somewhere, but it's not Lake of the Woods, Joe. And if people want to plan a trip this fall or start thinking about ice fishing up at Lake of the Woods, what should they do?
Hey, check out our website, and that is lakeofthewoodsmn.com.
If you want to catch a big walleye, go where the big walleyes are. Lake of the Woods is the walleye capital of the world, with a variety of resorts and lodging facilities offering full-service fishing. Lake of the Woods is also home to sturgeon, sauger, perch, trophy pike, muskie, smallmouth bass, burbot, and more. Plan your trip to Lake of the Woods today. Go to lakeofthewoodsmn.com. That's lakeofthewoodsmn.com.
All right, this is Sporting Journal Radio. Thanks for tuning in on the radio network by demand or watching this on YouTube. Thank you very much. We now have the Angler of the Year, Hunter Nitti, joining us on the show. Hunter, how's it going?
Going good. It's going good. It's just kind of got back and settled in after the tournaments and just been, just fishing.
Congratulations, by the way. And you're out on the water right now?
Yeah, I'm on the water right now as we speak. Just
That's
sitting on
awesome.
the rainy river.
I'm jealous. Well, it always...
Spinning everyone around here.
That's how excited we are about you winning Angler of the Year. We're doing circles up here. Well, feel free to fish while we're doing this if you want, because that's always cool when people catch fish on the show. But if you don't want to, you've caught a lot of fish this year already. And finishing a top Angler of the Year, it was a little neck and neck there for you. You got second place at Erie, top 10 at Red Wing, fourth at Green Bay, and ninth at the championship on Huron. Sakakawea was a little tough for you?
Yeah, I think I took 26 on Sakakawea.
Didn't matter, though.
Yeah, no, it didn't matter.
That's a heck of a season. What do you think happened there in North Dakota?
North Dakota, we were on the right fish every day that we fished. I mean, you'd roll up on a school of fish, it'd be unbelievable. There'd be hundreds of them, and you'd mark them. You'd say, "All right, this is one of the spots we need." And the next day, you'd pull up, and they'd all be gone, every single one of them. And it was a reoccurrence the whole week of pre-fish, and it just kept happening. So we would sit in certain areas, fish these fish once we found them again. And it was not within a day that they were moving. It was within hours that they were moving. And they were actually even moving 4 to 5 miles in a couple hours. It was unbelievable. And it was just so inconsistent all over. And I had some spots back in the bays that didn't have the fish to win, but it had some fish to just kind of stay in it. And the first day we caught those fish, I think we were sitting pretty good, actually. And day 2, those fish just shut off. I don't know what happened. I stuck to them all day to see if they would fire, and they never really fired.
What do you think was pushing them around or moving them around? Do you think they were getting pushed, or do you think they were just naturally moving, or what do you think was happening?
It was definitely a natural migration. They were just migrating down the lake, and all the smelt that they were chasing after was migrating down the lake too. It was you pull into an area, if it didn't have any smelt, there was no fish. And even when you were sitting there watching these walleyes, they were blowing up on these smelt and just following them wherever the smelt went. They would move in shallow, and then they'd move right back out deep. It was crazy. They were reservoir fish. I've never really seen walleyes move that fast in minutes.
How is that? You finish, you take Angler of the Year, and the first question is about the worst tournament cattles.
Great host. Real nice guy.
After getting that second place, that first tournament, and you can talk about that tournament if you want to, but how are you feeling after getting that, looking forward to the rest of the season?
Yeah, it's a great way to start. It was pretty cool. I've been out to Erie quite a few times, and I never got to live scope it, but we started live scoping it like day 2 into pre-fish, and we were like, oh man, this is game on. The fish they didn't care what you threw at them. You could have thrown anything at them. They ate it in a second, and from there on out, we just knew we needed to find the right ones. And we finally found the right ones. We left them alone, and it was a great tournament. We lost a couple in the net that would have won us the tournament, but it was a great start to the year. It gets your momentum running. I think I fished 2 tournaments before that we had won and taken second, and it just gets your momentum going, gets your confidence up, and it's a good start. If you start bad, you could go downhill really fast.
Did you think it'd be a tight race between? It was almost like a battle of Mille Lacs resort kids, like resort anglers. Do you know Eric pretty well, I bet?
No, yeah, I know Eric pretty well. We kind of grew up around each other, and that was pretty cool to have both of us battling it out at one point. And it's crazy, with the way the year went, and the way the year went for multiple other guys. Any other year, we would have walked away with it. By the third tournament, it'd have been over for some of us, and it was crazy to think that we battled it out that far and all the way till the very, very end.
How many years have you been fishing the NWT?
I've only fished the NWT 2 years.
2 years. Okay. Well, that's pretty cool to get Angler of the Year in year 2.
Yeah, no, it's pretty awesome.
What did you hear from the other anglers, on the tour then? Were some guys like, come on, man, year 2? Really? Come on.
Yeah. there was a lot of talk, but I've fished against most of these anglers. I fished 3 tournament circuits a year, or almost 3 tournament circuits a year, and most of them had known me, and they kind of were, when I first entered it, they knew that they'd been bugging me for years to enter it. They knew I was good enough to do it, and it was just about having the confidence to go do it. And when I showed up the first year, they were like, oh, it's just, you'll have a tough year here and there. My first year was pretty tough. And then year 2, a few of them actually looked at me and they're like, this is your kind of fishing. This is gonna be your year. And I was like, yeah, and it ended up being my year. It was pretty cool.
So looking at the schedule, they knew that the schedule is set up for you to have a good year.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, a lot of guys knew that the schedule had set up for me to be a good year. A lot of guys were like, oh man, you probably know Pool 4 very well. And I didn't know Pool 4 very well at all. I know the river system really well during the spring. I fish it every day. I'm only a half hour from there. But after Minnesota opener opens, I'm gone. I'm on the lakes. I'm doing what what I like to fish, and that was pretty cool to figure out that body of water too.
As this year went on, when did you start to think that Angler of the Year could be possible?
Man, probably not till the third event. You know, it was definitely not till Green Bay. Well, after Green Bay, you know, you look at it, you start looking at the standings, you go, oh, I got to finish here, and I got to in the next couple, and anything could happen. I just got to not stop battling, and you know, I tried not to think about it. I didn't want to think about it at all. I just wanted to go fishing and not have to worry about that. But at the same time, you kind of got to worry about it because you're not trying to win the tournaments. You're trying to just stay consistent.
Yeah, it's almost like talking about a no-hitter during the game. You know, you don't want to jinx it. What does a guy get for winning Angler of the Year with the NWT?
So first place Angler of the Year is this year was a brand new Nitro 21-footer with a 300 on the back.
Dang.
I think at MSRP's at like 85. So it's a pretty good payout for Angler of the Year. And a pretty sweet trophy.
That's awesome. You're a Ranger guy, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm a Ranger guy, so we're gonna have to sell that Nitro.
All right. So you kind of brought something up there that I wanted to talk about, and that's finally taking that step. You've been fishing competitively for a long time. You fish a number of circuits, but finally pulling the trigger to fish the NWT. Talk about the decision to do that and why there are reservations for it.
Yeah, you know, the decision to do it was just me and a buddy, Will Poppenfuss, looking at each other going, man, we gotta go do this. And we did it for a couple years. We just sat there, and I think a lot of guys out there just sit there and, oh, I'm going to do it next year, and then they don't do it, and I'm going to do it next year, and then they don't do it. Well, Will, and we know Max pretty well, Wilson and Isaac Lakich and all those guys, and they pimped us enough that we were just like, all right, we're in. We're gonna go do it. And you know, we teamed up with those guys, so we had a great team to start right away. And it wasn't just like me and Will were going into it alone, and that was, those guys were like, hey, let's team up, and we're like, all right. Well, I looked at Will, I'm like, now or never. We got a great team built right now, let's go do it. And that was kind of what pushed us to do it. And we knew we were awesome anglers. We knew we were good enough to do it. It was just, I don't know, you just kind of got to jump into something. It's kind of jumping into stuff, and sometimes you get scared, but you got to do it. You got to do it.
What helps to have some buddies around you doing the same thing too, and it's nice to see guys working together. You know, I think you see that a lot in the outdoor world, even in the competitive outdoor world, of guys helping each other out and maybe competing individually, but working as a team to some extent, you know, as much as you can. But I want to know, and you don't have to say any names, but I want to know if there's any ugly, you know, what kind of ugliness you've seen, if you've seen anything, you know, negative in that competition. And we got to take a quick break so you can think about how you want to answer that. And then I'll have you answer it when we come back here with Hunter Nitti on Sporting Journal Radio. Now is the time to start thinking about chasing big walleyes on Devil's Lake. Get on the fish at Haybale Heights Campground and Resort. Haybale Heights makes it easy for you to make memories on legendary Devil's Lake with guided fishing and lodging packages. Or bring your own boat and rent one of their cabins on East Bay. Haybale Heights offers a private marina, fish cleaning station, and the opportunity to relax and enjoy your bucket list trip to Devil's Lake, North Dakota. To book your trip, visit haybaleheights.com. That's haybaleheights.com. All right, we're back, Sporting Journal Radio, talking with Hunter Nitti right now, who's on the Rainy River. And is it combat fishing up there yet? Sounds like you got guys close to you.
Oh, yeah, guys are asking me if I got them dialed in already because I'm sitting here in the middle of the river. It's been a wild few days. A lot of guys, I think there's some guys struggling and stuff, so they're tailpiping a little bit. So it's been a little combat, so it's kind of cool, though.
Man, what do you got on the side of your boat? I mean, I bet, you know, like a guide service, you probably get followed around a little bit.
Yeah, I got a huge, my boat's fully wrapped, United Heroes League, and that big star right there, it doesn't hide me very well. Guys tell me they can see me from a long ways away.
Tell me about what's United Heroes League. Talk about that real quick.
So United Heroes League is out of Hastings, Minnesota, and they help military families. They help military families, kids get into sports and help them out. And they do a lot of stuff with the like Minnesota hockey days and all that. And it's a great organization that I got to be a part of. So, and my dad grew up with a lot of the guys. We have events up at a resort on Mille Lacs, Nitti's Hunters Point, with them, and raised money for military families.
That's awesome. That's way cool, man. It's pretty sweet that you got that on the boat too. I want to ask you kind of what we talked about before the break a little bit. Obviously you hear a lot of good stories, anglers helping each other out here and there, but have you experienced, whether NWT or other tournament circuits, has there been any like some negative aspects to the competition?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of negative aspects to the competition. On Pool 4 this year during the tournament, day one, I had 2 or 3 guys around me all day, and everybody knew I had a big bag. Obviously, I was leading going into the second day, and it was one of those spots that, you're not going to miss me turning into there, and it was like a choo-choo train turning into there. There was one guy after another following me into this spot that has probably never even fished the spot before in their life. And after the tournament, I actually had co-anglers walking up to me that were so embarrassed and so apologetic. And I was like, it's not your guys' fault. You guys have no say in the matter of anything. And it got pretty heated. I had to leave my own spot. And I'm not a big yeller, but I heard other guys were yelling back and forth like, hey, that wasn't right. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of tailpiping that goes on, Some of these guys will drive around a whole pre-fish, I swear, and they'll just look for the guys that are hammers and sit and hit waypoints. I mean, I'm seeing it out here right now, too. And it's in every tournament circuit. It's crazy. They'll pull right in on you. They don't care. I'm not a big yeller, but you see some of these other guys that are like me and we're pretty good fishermen, and these other guys have no idea what's going on. They'll yell right back. They'll say something, and usually I just stick to myself. That's probably one of the biggest things I see, that you kind of get into yelling matches and stuff like that, and it gets pretty wild.
So that brings in a whole nother level of strategy then. Do you, if you know you got a spot, there are fish there when you were pre-fishing, you got a spot, it's out of the way, nobody else was fishing it, and guys are tailing you a little bit, will you try to lead them off the spot just a little bit? And, go there later or not stay there? Or, how do you handle that?
I've had it where I've actually made a monster loop, and I blew right past my spot. I've dumped in. I had a day 2 Green Bay. I kind of dumped into an area that I hadn't even fished yet, and I watched 3 guys dump in right behind me, and I just laughed because I didn't even know if there was fish there or not. And holy moly, big just jumped right next to me. I didn't even know if there was fish there or not, and I sat down. I waited for them to start fishing. I threw the trolling motor back up, and I took off, and I'm.
Oh, we lost him.
Sturgeon hit him. Sturgeon knocked the signal out. Uh-oh.
You'll have that. Hunter Nitti is our guest. Oh,
he's back.
He's back?
Yep.
All right. That sturgeon jump in the boat with you or what?
No, it was dang near. I pulled into the spot. I didn't even think there was a fish in there, and a bunch of guys followed me in there, and this was on Green Bay, and I threw the troll motor, acted like I was going to fish, waited for them to start fishing. I took off and I left, and I don't think those guys weighed a fish. I'm not even kidding. I don't think they weighed a fish. I was laughing so hard. So there's a little bit of competition. Like we'll spin guys into a loop. I mean, we'll walk around and say, "Oh yeah, did you hear Hunter Nitti got 4 over 30 around over here?" And I didn't get 4 over 30 over there, but the next day you'll see 10 boats there. I promise you that.
Yeah, man, that's such a tough part about it. This is just a quick story. I'll tell you. It's kind of related, but not really. But when I was working for a business that rented out fish houses in the winter for ice fishing, we just moved our houses to stage them out in the middle of the lake at one point, and then we were gonna go out and move them and put them on different spots the next day. So we had, I don't know, 5 or 6 houses just in a circle. Just they weren't dropped to the ice. There was no holes drilled, nothing like that. Go out there the next day to move them, and there's like 2 brand new fish houses of people just came up and parked next to us, and we're fishing next to us. So I don't know, people struggle sometimes, you know. And if a guy doesn't have enough time to be out on a lake, they're only out for the weekend, out from the cities or something like that, and they're looking for a place to catch a couple fish. I mean, I don't know. I hate it when you're fishing a spot too, and a boat will just roll up past you. And you'll see him. He'll just roll up past you. The troller won't come down or anything, and you'll just see him reach over to his electronics and start pushing buttons on it. It's
There's
like,
so many people that just chase the crowd.
Yeah, right. What do you do? Yeah. Well, what's something else that somebody might be surprised to learn about? Fishing a tour like the NWT or any other tournament series. What's something they would not expect to learn about?
Oh man. I don't know what they would not expect to learn about, because you really learn a lot as the co-anglers learn a ton. I mean, it's crazy. After I've talked to a bunch of the co-anglers, and they're like, man, I learned a ton today. I can't believe how much I learned. And it's a bunch of the little things, on the Garmin Live Scope, on color palettes that we use, different ranges that we use on different bodies of water. The last event, we were catching fish in 150 feet of water where nobody would ever fish without a Garmin Live Scope. That's one thing that a lot of people have learned, that, we were fishing right next to the salmon fishermen, and right out in 150 feet of water. It was crazy to even think that those fish were out there, but we noticed that there was no fish up shallow, and there's a lot of fish in that lake, everybody was telling us, and we're like, where? And got out into 100 to 150 feet of water where the salmon guys were, and bang, there was walleyes everywhere. So there's like cool things like that people learn, and that you don't see other places, and that the kind of fishing things that we figure out. Bodies of water like Lake Erie, where a lot of guys fish basin fish all over the place, and they chase around these big schools, and there's other guys in the weeds pounding on big ones, and you never see that on Erie. And it's just the cool, odd things that we come up with on where to find fish. And I've seen tournaments where, I think at AIM National Championship years ago, there was guys catching big ones under docks, and that was pretty
Wow. So I want to ask you about Live Scope and how it's changed everything, including, I want to know, how old were you when you stopped pulling Lindy rigs with like a 10-foot leader, fluorocarbon or something on Mille Lacs to start, switching to glide baits or jigging wraps or something like that? What, was it all Live Scope change, or, when did that change for you?
Last year it definitely changed for me. I had messed around with it for a couple years, and I wasn't very good at it. I was good at old school. That's what we did. We Lindy rigged. This amount of colors of lead this day, these colors, switching cranks, especially up here on Lake of the Woods. I mean, cranking's what we did. Lindy rigging's what we did on Mille Lacs. And if you had a south wind blowing in on a rock pile, well, you went up in there and you threw corks and up shallow and hope the fish were up there chasing the bait around. So, last year it was a huge switch for me. I mean, I think that's part of the reason I got my butt kicked in the NWT, is I wanted to fish old school, and these guys were all new school, and I was like, man, I got to learn this. And it was about halfway through the year where I was just like, I'm not having any cranking rods in the boat, no rigging rods. Everything's going to be the glide baits, big swim baits, jigging a crawler, which is the only thing that we all throw now, dang near. And I sat on Live Scope day after day after day, and I was not coming off the water any day until I had something more figured out to it. And it was a big switch for me. I didn't understand it right away, but when it clicks, and it's pretty cool thing to learn.
The jigging a crawler thing, it just seems so weird to me. And slip bobbers, I remember one of the first ways I ever fished as a kid when we'd go up to Canada walleye fishing we'd slip bobber. We'd get off structure and try to run a slip bobber over the drop off or something like that, or up on the reef a little bit. And then it kind of disappeared for a long time, and it seems like that's come back. And I think it's funny when you hear about some of these guys, this new technique, and granted that it's been refined a bit. Now you're using a live scope with it. But, I mean, especially when you talk about Mille Lacs, I mean, slip bobbers have been kind of a staple there forever.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, corking it was the thing. We figured out years ago that you could just drive over them with 2D and flip a cork off the back right on top of their head, and that was kind of like our live scope, and that was the way to do it. Some of the bites we used to get on Mille Lacs, just sitting on the mud flats, and you're just driving around at 4 miles per hour, and you'd mark one and throw a cork right where your deucer was. It'd go down, you'd pull away from it, look back, and boom, it was gone.
But live scope is ruining everything. All right, we got to go to the podcast. Hunter Nitti is our guest. We're going to take another quick break. If you're on the radio network, go to YouTube, go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever, and listen to the rest of this interview, because I want to ask Hunter what he thinks about the future of live scope with the NWT and other tournament series coming up on the podcast portion of Sporting Journal Radio. What do you think, man? The future, I mean, you've seen a couple of the other tournaments in the bass world now have changed the rules when it comes to forward-facing sonar. What do you think the NWT is going to do, if anything?
I don't think they're going to do anything, honestly, because it's, in the walleye world, Garmin sponsors half of these events. So I really don't think they'll do anything. Garmin sponsors them, and they're not going to just take it away when Garmin's probably one of their biggest sponsors.
Well, I think Garmin was sponsoring Bassmaster too, weren't they, or something like that? And that's why I think you didn't see the ban that what's the other one, and National
the one no one ever heard of until they decided to ban live scope.
Brilliant.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
The crazy part is we were on Huron, and those guys, that circuit banned live scope, and there was a bass tournament out there, and we're like, what bass tournament is out here? It was the same circuit. So that was the first time we heard of them ever.
Well, they got their name in the news. That's for sure. We're talking about them right now. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, what do you think? Do you think, if you look at the way people are fishing, if you look at the fact that they're finding suspended fish that you may not have always been able to find in the past, lure companies, and granted in America, in a capitalist society, it's market and demand. You're going to have people are going to change the way they fish. So you have some lure companies, struggling now because they're not forward-facing sonar specific, or they don't show up well, or whatever the latest headline is. Do you think there's any issues with the way people are fishing now with electronics as far as, a resource is concerned?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of issues. It's most of these guys only have a jig box in their boat nowadays, and I've noticed, we used to buy cranks all the time. The amount of cranks that we used to buy, I can't imagine how many that with everybody else not buying cranks anymore. How down these companies are. It's these companies really just need to stick to making live scope baits right now. I know it's not really what they're used to, but whatever company's got the most live scope and baits right now is going to be at the top, and I think it's definitely hurting those companies. The Garmin is for sure. I've talked to other local bait shops, little bait shops. They're like, we're not selling any tackle anymore. They're down 80% on tackle. Yeah. Some people walk in and all they buy is crawlers and jigs, and Berkeley's coming out with some new forward-facing stuff. Rappala's got some Crush City stuff. That's all that stuff is awesome for live scoping, but all the other stuff that those companies have, I mean, they spent years working on these crankbaits they're awesome. I love cranking, and each company's got their own cranks figured out they're perfect for certain scenarios, and I haven't bought a crank all year.
Yeah, it's definitely changing. And in the tournament world, what do you think the role of the co-angler has become? And do you see a co-angler? Sometimes you hear about, what is a co-angler? I mean, it's great for the co-angler, and it's raising money for the tournament series. But how are guys treating their co-anglers these days?
Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough. for the co-angler nowadays. You know, back when we were cranking, the rod would bend over and you'd look out and go, hey, reel that one in. So it was kind of cool for them to see that. And nowadays it's, hey, can you, they kind of sit there and just hand you a crawler all day or another bait or another rod. And, you know, you try to count them in and you give them a swim bait to throw around, but it just, it doesn't really work out in their favor. But, you know, I didn't know which way it was going to go for them. I told some of the guys, I'm like, hey, what are we going to do with our co-anglers, you know? And some of them are good about it. Some of them don't like it. But it's the new way of fishing. The live scoping's the new way of fishing. And I think the co-anglers are there. If I was a co-angler, I would only be there for one reason. And I wouldn't care if I caught any fish or did anything all day besides handed my pro a crawler. I'm there for one reason. I'm there to learn. And some of the co's are absolutely awesome. You know, that you could tell they're here to learn. They don't care if you're on a live scope of bite and you're the only one catching fish all day. I've had multiple stand right behind my shoulder all day and watch me, and it doesn't bother me. And at the end of the day, they're like, wow, I learned a ton. That is awesome. I can't wait to get back in my boat when I get home and use what you taught me and live scope some of these fish. So it kind of went a different path than I thought it was going to be. As far as the co-anglers, I think they're learning a ton from us and learning the new way to fish.
Is there anything, when it comes to like the NWT, is there any other things you'd like to see changed or any suggestions you'd have for the tournament moving forward, for the tournament series moving forward?
Yeah, you know, I'd like for it to, you know, there's a lot of things that we don't have to have a championship on a monster body of water like we did late in the year, because it was just rougher than heck every day. And I think we could have tournaments of these cooler bodies of water in Minnesota or North Dakota, smaller bodies of water where, you know, let's say we had a tournament up here on Lake of the Woods, a championship. Could you imagine the amount of people that would show up for it? It would be incredible. These other places we go, there's barely any crowd, and the crowd that there is, we're happy that they're there. But you could go to some pretty cool places, have a big crowd, and do something like the Bassmasters has. And another thing that would be cool to see change is go to something live, so the people back home knows what's going on throughout the day instead of posting a few pictures. And going to something live would be pretty cool, whether it's cameras or just seeing kind of what a guy has throughout the day.
We've talked about that a lot. Dan and I have talked about that. It'd be fun to be able to watch you guys live while you're fishing out there. And when it comes to the way, you know, the weigh-in, or, you know, and what Bassmaster does, I mean, it's a big event, especially the Classic. It's the Super Bowl and all that stuff. But what do you think is happening to those fish? I know bass are kind of tough and all that stuff, but walleyes, I mean, when you're bouncing them around in a live well, especially if the water, you know, is kind of choppy out there, bringing them up on stage, then releasing them wherever. I mean, do you think weigh-ins will continue to be a part of the future of these tournaments, or do you think there's a way that you could try to go to like some sort of CPR or type tournament?
Yeah, you know, it's pretty cool having a weigh-in tournament. I absolutely love it. You got to go
fun.
Get your little slots. Yeah,
it's fun, yeah.
Slots, and then you got to go get your big fish. And for people that are actually coming and watching these weigh-ins, it's cool. It's really awesome. Yeah, these fish are definitely getting beat up, and it's I don't know, maybe half of them survive when we throw them back. When we try to release them, we don't have kill tournaments, but I don't know if I would fish the NWT if they switched it to a catch photo release thing. You know, it would go downhill fast. I think.
You think the weigh-in's that big of a deal?
Yeah, I think the weigh-in is that big of a deal, and just the pure competition of this guy caught a 28 over here. You know, we see it a lot where you catch 28s over here, you're overs, and they're 4 pounds heavier than the ones over there. So there's a lot of strategy that goes into it, or even your slots, your 19 inchers, 18 inchers. You know, the 19s 20 miles downriver are way heavier than the ones upriver. And, you know, it's, I I hate to say this, but I could never trust a coach taking pictures. And there's just no way. I wouldn't even fish the tour anymore.
And I'm not laughing because of the comment about the co, but I just know that anytime, somebody taking a picture of you holding a big fish, it's always a gamble, especially if they're not used to running a camera. So
why'd you look at me when you said that? You don't catch many big fish. I don't have to take your picture.
You need to make my fish look bigger, Dan, is what I'm trying to say.
We'll teach you that. We're pretty good at that.
The old long arm and wide angle. So next year, NWT, it's Missouri River out of Bismarck, Mississippi at La Crosse, Huron, Erie, and then Green Bay. Are you happy you're not at Sakakawea again next year?
Yeah, I'm actually, you know what? We went to Sakakawea at the beginning of the year for the AIM National Championship, and I couldn't wait to go back. It was a hammer fest. Those fish were just coming out of the river, going into the Van Hook, and it was unbelievable. We were catching 50, 60 fish a day, and we're not even throwing at all of them, and I was excited to go back, but I'm glad we're not going back in the middle of the summer or something, because it was horrible.
That's funny. Well, I want to talk a little bit about who you are. You get your background for people watching or listening to this real quick. We've been hearing your name a lot, of course, this year and last year. And but you actually started competitively fishing when you were 10. Is that right?
Yeah, I was about 10 or 12. I was jumping into competitive tournaments. My grandpa bought me a brand new Lund Rebel, and I didn't really have anybody that fished with me, they all knew I fished pretty hard and I was crazy about it, but everybody had their regular partners, and me and my mom would go out in these circuits, and we'd beat them up a little bit. It was kind of fun. We probably fished 4 tournaments together, and we took all top 10s, and it was pretty cool to do that when I was younger. But I always said to myself that the only way you're going to get better at this, and the only way you're going to learn is by getting your butt kicked a few times. So that I wanted to grow up and just tournament fish, and I was probably 16, 17 years old when I first really, really got into it, and that's when we fished almost every event that we could every year. So it was pretty cool, and the first couple of years, you're getting used to it, and then we started to get really good at it, and in like 2020 we jumped into the Ames, me and my uncle. And that was the first year on the Ames. We kind of thought the Ames was a little better tournament circuit than the circuits that we were fishing, and we jumped over to the Ames in 2020, and we actually won the championship up here at Baudette, and we won Team of the Year. So that was pretty awesome. That was a big jump. Now,
growing up and spending a lot of time on Mille Lacs, I got to get this figured out, because I'm not sure how this worked, but you've got Hunter's Point, Nitti's Hunter Point, Nitti's Hunter's Point, and Hunter Nitti. So is the lodge named after a point? Is the name there because of the resort? And are you named after the resort? Are you named after how does
the point named after you? Did the chicken did the chicken come first, or
exactly.
Did the egg come first?
Yeah.
No, I think my grandpa bought the place in '98, and the resort was already called Hunter's Point. So it's no big story, It was, my mom named me after some supermodel girl that she liked a lot, and whether I was going to be a boy or a girl, I was going to be Hunter, and that's pretty much the story. It's not.
So the two are unrelated. They have nothing to do with each other.
Yep, totally nothing to do with each other. Just happened to end up that way.
If you would have told me that, I would have asked you about that, and a supermodel would have been a part of the answer. I would have said you're crazy.
Yeah, that's the true story. Sometimes when people ask me, and I'm just like, "Yep, I was named after the resort," just to get it over with quick. But no, that's the true story behind all of it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, how much do you think spending time on Mille Lacs, arguably one of the best walleye lakes, in the world, in the state, obviously, how much of that had an influence on who you are today, and the fact that you're a competitive walleye angler?
Yeah, I'd say a lot of it. It was it's one of those lakes. It's got it all. There's the north end's all sand. The the east side, the west sides, it's all hard rock. The south end's rock, and then you get to the bays and it's weeds. And you know, then you get to the middle and it's all mucky mud flats. There's so many different kinds of structure that you can fish, and just learning how to fish all that structure and then taking it to new lakes. It's pretty awesome. It's you get to a lake that's just a sand bite, let's say, and well, I know how to fish sand. I fish sand a lot on Mille Lacs, so you kind of remember what the way Mille Lacs set up, those fish set up in the sand, and you fish that lake the same way. And then, oh, I fished weeds on Mille Lacs. Well, this is a really weedy lake, and I know how to fish weeds, so it's kind of cool, you know. All these lakes have, a lot of lakes don't have all the stuff like Mille Lacs has, but you could take little bits and pieces of Mille Lacs and bring it to a new lake and figure out a new lake pretty quick. It's pretty awesome.
How's Mille Lacs doing right now?
It's great. It's been a great year out there, you know. There's fish everywhere. There's perch everywhere. The fish are actually healthy compared to the past years. You know, I'm catching 25, 27-inch fish. I haven't seen the big numbers of big giants. You know, I probably caught 2 or 3 over 28 all year, but the 26s, 27s, 25s, I mean, they're dang near as big as around as a football. It's incredible compared to the past couple years where we were catching them and they were skinny, unhealthy, and there's a huge hatch of perch in the lake right now, and they're just having a ball eating up those perch. And it's kind of cool during the winters. Last winter we caught a pile of those perch, and they're almost dang near big enough to be the jumbos where you could start filling buckets. So Mille Lacs is doing great.
Do you want to just briefly weigh in on the management of the lake and what your opinion is and moving forward, and what do you think the future looks like?
Yeah, you know, it's I don't know what the future looks like. I guess that depends on the DNR, but if they say, anybody listening, they say there's no walleyes in that lake, there is more walleyes in that lake than you could ever imagine. And you know, I don't know if we got to take these guys out and show them on live scope how many walleyes are on this lake, but in that lake right now. But it's incredible. We need to start keeping a few, and I'm not saying a few, I'm talking 4 to 5 a day per person, whatever we got to do, or this lake's going to choke itself out, or it's just going to be a repeat. You know, they're going to eat up all these perch, and they'll be healthy for 2-3 years, but once they eat up all these perch, they're not going to have anything to eat, and fish will start dying off, and they'll get skinny again, and it won't be good. I mean, we need to definitely keep some fish. There's spots like Schultz's Flat and the Boot right now. You go up on it with live scope, I'm not kidding, I wish I had videos of it, there's 300 to 400 fish in certain areas on it, and they're all gorged with perch, and they're not that easy to catch. But there's areas down south like 4 Mile Gravel that all the perch kind of moved out to the mud flats, and you could sit on those spots and catch 60 to 80 walleyes a day easy, not live scoping.
Well, it's been an interesting adventure the last 10 years, watching the management of that lake go back and forth, and with the new approach of a 5-year plan, it sounds like, versus changing everything year to year. I hope that'll keep everybody from getting too worked up each year. It seems like it's like the day the new regs come out, you know, it's like the internet blows up and has a meltdown. So hopefully we'll see good things in the future. And you know, you're at Lake of the Woods right now. You grew up at Mille Lacs. I mean, those are two just amazing walleye fisheries. But is there another place, any place in the world, fishing destination, walleye or not, that you haven't been to that's on your list just to go fun fish? You don't have to tournament fish it, just to go fun fish.
Yeah. Oh, man. I'm sure there's a ton, and I'm sure there's a ton for all of us, but I would say probably Columbia River or you know, I fish Fort Peck through the ice a lot and never open water, so Fort Peck would be pretty awesome. You know, they're catching 33 inches that are 14, 15 pounds in the fall. That would be pretty awesome. And there's a lot of other lakes in Montana that I would love to figure out. The different reservoirs. They got, I mean, you hear about 16, 17 pound walleyes. I would love to go learn one of those lakes and have the chance to catch one of those fish. That would be pretty awesome.
It's kind of amazing, and maybe it hasn't been as much of a secret as I feel like it has been, but you always heard about lake trout or big pike for Fort Peck, but all of a sudden, well, there's a tournament. Was that this year? There's a tournament out there or something like that, and all of a sudden guys just crushed huge bags, and it's like, oh.
Yeah, it's been going on for years out there. It's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of been a hidden secret, and they haven't told anybody, but they're weighing 60-pound bags. And, I mean, there's really only a few other places that you could do it, and one of the places is here for sure.
Well, in that Columbia River, I had a chance to fish at, I don't know, 8-9 years ago or something like that. And I think the state record out there is 22 pounds for a walleye or some ridiculous thing.
Yeah, that's a huge bee.
And we were there in the summer, so they weren't real heavy, but my buddy did catch like a 34.25-inch walleye while we were fishing out there on the river. And it's just crazy to see a 34-inch walleye, you know, that's nutty. But all right, dude, I know you're in your boat floating out there. We'll let you get back at it. Appreciate the time today. Good luck in future tournaments. Hunter Nitti, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, guys.
Sporting Journal Radio is a division of Macaba LLC. If you've got a question, comment, or story idea for us, send us an email. Go to sportingjournalradio.com. While you're there, you can learn how to advertise on the show and visit our store for hats, hoodies, coffee mugs, and more. Go to sportingjournalradio.com.